Hello everybody and welcome back to a new episode. Today we're going to be making a Nasutoceratops enclosure together with a backstage area. So please enjoy the video. So first I wanted to create a backstage shelter for them. I wanted to create something akin to a barn because these animals are pretty big and pretty sturdy and they really remind me of cows. So I thought maybe something along the line of a barn type deal. I didn't want it to be like a box with just 4 walls and a roof. I wanted it to have a interesting shape. So I thought it would be a nice idea to make it kind of a layered roof, where you kind of have a skip, like I'm building right here, which gives it a bit more of depth and a bit more interesting look to it. And because these animals actually like tropical climates, I found it really suiting to also use tropical elements in this build. And because our map is actually set in a tropical biome, it just fits, it just makes the whole picture complete. After a bit of a puzzle, I managed to fill in the entire wall, and I just had to go to molecular level to actually place the other wall, which was pretty nice. So this is what it looks like inside. I think it looks okay. It's nice and big for big animals. They're not really tall, but I like to have room in there, and I also want to place some ventilation things there, so you know we have room to do that. Because I didn't want it to look like a box, I decided to put in some supports at the corners and also later on the wall, so it gives a bit more depth to the whole structure. Of course, we needed to place in some hay places for them to sleep. I wasn't really sure how big they needed it to be, but I figured it would be large to medium, so you know, these should be fine. So for the backstage area, I was thinking just a simple box, which is not the way I wanted to make the barn itself, but it made sense in my head because you just need a practical place to like prepare the food, maybe prepare some medicine, and have a place to hang out for the keepers or just do the work backstage. And I never really done like interior work, so this was a nice change of pace. I really enjoyed actually placing in the little details, so I'm definitely going to do this more in the future. But I just like adding these like little details, like thinking about like what do they need, how do they use them, where should they be placed. Like if I was a keeper, where do I want the things to be? And even like things like a little coat hanger, like it's just I just really like just these little details there. So of course a wheelbarrow for some food or some you know, excrements of the animals itself. A little crate with, you know, just some deliveries, I guess. And I was thinking like, how do they clean the animals if they need cleaning, because it's gonna be a really muddy place. I already thought of that. So you know, place a hose there, maybe place a little stairs thingy because they're pretty big, and some boxes with food or supplies. Later on, after we build the entire enclosure, we are going to expand the backstage area even more, but you will have to wait for that till the end. And you know, even stacking these cones was pretty funny because you know, you always need more, and you know how you store them is just on top of each other, and I just thought it would be funny to make one that didn't really get put on that, you know, accurately or like carefully, so it's a bit like hanging off of it. I really enjoy those little details. And of course some air conditioning, because you know we need the animals to be cool in the summer and warm in the winter, so just something to little detail I wanted to add there, nothing too fancy. So for the enclosure itself, I was thinking something more of a standard shape of a enclosure, because we made a few like interesting shapes, but I really wanted to make something like more standard. This enclosure is kind of wrapping around the bend of the road, which makes it a bit interesting, of course. But I wanted to make it interesting due to elevation differences in the enclosure itself. You will just see in a second. Because the last ones were pretty flat, I wanted to play with height again. So I was thinking about placing a plateau where the animals maybe could stand up, like have an overview of the whole enclosure, but it would also serve as a center point for the visitors. So actually this enclosure is going to have 2 center points. It's going to be a lake in the middle, and then the plateau, the raised plateau in the corner. Again, you will see in a second. But first I wanted to have the requirements of the enclosure right, because this animal actually needs a lot of water. And I underestimated how much water they actually needed, so I needed to add a lot more. At the beginning I was thinking making a little lagoon, but in the end I just made a river/lake because they needed so much water. So like always I am painting in the foliage first. We need tropical and wetlands. Well, we are already in a tropical environment, so that was not a problem. So I placed down some leaves there to determine where the forests are going to be. I changed it later though, so stay with me. So here I'm adding the elevation. I didn't really know how high I wanted it to be because the slopes where the animals would have to walk up to cannot be too steep, so I was kind of playing with it. In the end I just placed down some rocks because I wanted a little cliff thingy, and that really determines the height, and it also made it really easy for me to flatten it because I had a reference point, because it can be kind of hard to actually see how high things are without something to compare it to. So here I am just making these slopes not too steep. Again, I didn't really have a reference point of how steep they could be. Turned out to be the right guess, so you know, it worked out in the end. So first I wanted to make it all jungle, but then I realized I also needed wetlands. So I thought this was a great opportunity to make like a little swamp area as well, which I think is nice because we have this elevation area, we have the swamp area, and then we have on the other side we have the jungle area. So it's a nice divide of different biomes in the same enclosure, and I think they blend really well. So I decided to place another elevation area on the other side, not as high as the last one, but I was thinking more of a like sleeping place for these animals, because we of course we have the barn, but it's also nice for them to sleep outside or have the option to sleep outside. So I thought of making a little, you know, extra place where they can sleep, and also kind of elevated so maybe the visitors can actually see them as well. So yeah, just a little detail I added. So now that we have the basic shapes done, I added foliage. This is way too much, I'm gonna thin it out later, but this is kind of the vibe we're going with. Not too many trees, maybe a few, but mainly, you know, plants and low trees at the rocks, which I think look pretty realistic. Make the back side of the elevated area all forests, so we have a nice little backdrop. And of course we need a jungle area like this, because we are in the jungle. So, you know, just some dense forests there. So I was thinking of making a little bridge there out of rocks. I first wanted to do it like a land bridge, but it didn't really turn out that well. So I just, and of course we would lose water, so you know, I can't really do that. But you know, some rocks, some logs there did do the trick. It's not really accessible by the animals, but you know, it's a nice visual to have, and you know, and of course we can always use our imagination, so we can pretend that they're actually walking there. So here I'm trimming out the excess forest because we had a bit too much, and placing in some rocks for details, which gives us a bit more texture to the whole environment and just makes it a bit more visually interesting, which is always nice, of course. Yeah, I really think it turned out pretty well. Later on we're going to add some more stuff, but for now we're going to add the barn and actually see how it all comes together. So taking a break from the enclosure, we're going to continue making the backstage area, which at the end turned out pretty interesting, so you'll just see in a second. But I was kind of struggling with how I make like the divide between backstage and the visitors, so I decided to put in some rocks and some foliage to make the clear divide, and with of course a gate that only keepers can open. And I think it kind of turned out cozy as well with the foliage and stuff. Later on when we add the benches and stuff, it really comes together, and you know, it's gonna look pretty nice if I do say so myself. So I didn't really want to add paths, so I decided to place down some rocks, and I think that looks really natural and really nice as well. So here I'm placing some containers, and these are like permanent containers where they maybe can have some storage or place in some waste for later disposal. Yeah, I really enjoyed this detail actually, because you often see these kind of containers for big bulk storages, in places like this. So yeah, I think that was a pretty nice idea. Here I'm fencing off the backstage area, but we're actually going to make it bigger later. But I didn't really come up with that plan yet during this stage of building. So adding some backstage storage as well, I think really gives it a bit more realism. And again, stacking some stuff akin to the cones we did earlier. I really enjoyed like the not really well stacked stuff. So you know, that's kind of a theme with the backstage area here. So I thought it would be nice to add a little like dining area for the keepers or for the workers in general, with some shading so they can have their lunch break there, or or just chill after the work day. But then I realized we are far away from the backstage area, the temporary backstage area we have for the whole park, and I thought it would kind of be a nice idea to make a little growing facility here for vegetables, because these animals actually eat quite a lot. I thought it would be only natural to place a growing area here, so they can actually be grown at the enclosure where they are being eaten. And I think it really worked out, because you kind of get a feel of a garden, and I really enjoyed that part. So continuing our enclosure build, I decided to put in a backdrop. I was going to do like rocks first, but then I realized we did that a lot already. So I still did rocks, but I first placed a lot of dense foliage, so the rocks weren't that overwhelming, and I wanted to create a feeling that there was a dense jungle behind the enclosure, so you get a really immersed feeling from looking at the enclosure itself. And I think we got that. Adding in the last details, like walking paths of the animal, like where they would walk, like from the river to the sleeping places or from the river to the barn. Just some little details which brings the whole enclosure to life. And of course, lastly, placing the visitors' accommodations like binoculars, donation boxes, screens with information, some plants, because I didn't want them to be right up to the fence. I didn't record all of the visitor build, but you will see in the tour later on. The last thing we needed to do is actually place in the animals. And there they are. I made a mix of older and younger animals, and here is of course the baby one. His little feet just swimming. I love that. It's like a little dog. These animals are just so powerful, man. I really like them. Like, the animations are really top-notch. But we'll look at them more later. First, I will give you guys the tour of the backstage area and the enclosure itself. Alright, so here we are at the Nasutoceratops enclosure. So I placed in some benches right here. Some in the middle of the road, and some at the edge here with some foliage as well, some jungle foliage. And of course here we have the main attraction with the binoculars. Like, look at them. I really enjoyed the new update as well with the herding, because they actually walk together now and they stick together, as you can see. It's pretty cool. They do move in herds. If you know, you know, of course. And I think like the backdrop really worked out as well. I really think, you can really immerse yourself in the enclosure here. Again, like I know I said it the last episode, but I just think these animals are so cool. Oh my god. I think they're really cool. So we have some binoculars here. Donation boxes, which is kind of screwed, so I will just fix that later. And some information signs here as well. Like I said, I placed some fences here with some plants in the middle, so people don't really go up to the fences itself, because they are still kind of dangerous animals. And they're really loud. I'm just hearing them be really loud right now. It'll be fine, I guess. It'll be fine, don't worry. So if you come here, you will see the entrance right here to the backstage area. And why are they making so much noise? What's going on, my guys? Are you sick or something, or what's... Are you angry? No, they're just really loud or something. Or are they fighting? Or what's going on here? Chasing. He was chasing. I'm not really sure what that was about, but I don't know. Let's continue the tour. So, if you come in here, you have the little boxes, the little containers, with again some bulk storage. And then you have the little seating area here where they can just sit, the keepers, relax, take a break. And of course the little garden. And I know I said it already, but I really enjoy this part. It really looks like a little garden area, like a backyard kind of deal. And it's just cozy. Like I will see myself sit here and just drink something or just take my lunch break. So in here you have some stuff the workers can use, some shovels, a sink they can wash their hands, so maybe some food, a little sign they still need to place somewhere, and stuff like that. So like a little work area, which will be alright. And then right here you have the barn itself with the little ventilation thing, and of course a gate where you can enter if it ever closes. It closes. Something to drink, something to sleep, and of course the enclosure itself. So let's see where they are. Oh, there. Oh, little guy. That's a little guy. It really looks like a puppy. It's really cute. They make a lot of noise. I didn't know they were that loud. Oh, look at him sleep. Look at him sleep. He's a tight little baby. That's... I mean, that's really cute. There he goes. Just sleeping. I wonder if in the next update they will actually react to your presence. Because right now I can just, teabag them and they won't react. And here's the other one, the other baby. Are you gonna sleep together? You gonna cuddle up? I hope they cuddle up. Please cuddle up. No, they're not gonna cuddle. I think they're all here right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they're all here. That's really cool. I don't really know why this one became black, by the way. Is it a mutation or some? Ah, it's a mutation. Ah, that's cool. How do you pronounce that? Melanistic? Melanistic? That's pretty cool. Because I couldn't remember that I made like a really dark one. I think that's pretty cool. Alright, let's continue with the tour. Sorry, every time I see like dinosaurs I just really get excited, so don't mind me. So we have the little bridge here that we made with some rocks. I don't know why the rocks don't appear down here, but if we stay on top of here we can kind of see them. Parkour! Oh no, we can parkour, hell yeah. And then you have the little plateau here, so they have a little place to drink here if they're thirsty here, and they can stand here and watch their kingdom from up here. So I think that's pretty cool. And then you have a little swamp area here where you just can roam around, drink some water, just kind of like be secluded from the rest, because if you crouch down here you don't really see the rest of the environment, so it's kind of nice for them. Maybe they can bathe here or something. I don't know. Shit, I don't really care. And speaking of shit, I placed down these little beetle thingies, so they clean up the whole enclosure, so there's not that much of dung for the keepers to clean up. So that's pretty nice. More animals. And right here you have a little beach area where they, we have some details where they walk a lot, and they can actually cross here, so we don't really have to worry about that. And oh, are you playing or are you angry? What are you doing? You're hungry. Well, there's food right there, bruh. So I'm actually going to leave it at that for this episode. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Please leave a comment if you have any questions or any feedback of the enclosure that we built today. It would be greatly appreciated. And oh man, like last episode, I just can't get enough just looking at these animals. Like they're so cool. They're really, really cool. Wow. So anyway, I'm really going to leave it at that for this episode. And I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.